Hello teacups, what's brewing? Thank you for your patience. I'm a little bit late to the party. I know all this cat stuff has been kicking off, but it was grade week this week where I had to put my grades into the system by end of day Thursday. And then yesterday I was like, okay, I'm gonna react because it was all kicking off. While I was sleeping, it all kicked off. But I was looking through all the stuff, and as I was trying to collect the clips, I actually got ready to react. I did my makeup and stuff, and I ended up falling asleep at 6 p.m. So I never quite made it to recording because it was just taking longer than I thought to get all the pieces together of the lives I'd missed and try and find clips to back up what I was saying. So I just gave up on it last night. Really sorry. So let's get into it. I do have notes here, so if I'm reading, that's why. So as you're probably all aware, Foodie gave up her cat to a viewer called Amy Flowers. A man came to pick her up. Amy Flowers was going to take her. FFG agreed for Amy Flowers to take her. The man turns out to be FFG's brother, and Amy Flowers is in fact FFG's sister-in-law. So the cat will be living with her sister-in-law. FFG has said that she will pay the bills to support the cat while she's living at her sister's-in-law's because FFG herself has dogs. She doesn't want a cat. It's not a good environment for a cat. It's better it be with her sister. They took BBJ to the vet. She had 5 ingrown claws. They've now been removed. BBJ is on antibiotics and has to use like a special litter for the next week while they heal. She's got another vet visit, I think in a week's time, to do like a full checkup and make sure like what physical condition she's in. Foodie is mad about it. Oh my God. Okay, so I understand why she's mad. And I do actually think that there has been a step up in how much people are intervening in her real life, which is something I've always really been against. But in this case, I'm finding it hard to disapprove. We'll get to that. But at the moment, Foodie is very much on, FFG stole my cat. And she was making these demands to be like, yo, you have until tomorrow to return her, which if she's not doing something immediately, she's not doing anything. So she can keep raging online, but I'll believe it when I see it. But the deadline was tomorrow to give back the cat. It's fraud. No, but we'll talk. I'm going to the police, which is hilarious. Now, let's be clear here. There was a trick involved, but FFG did not steal her cat. Foodie agreed to give it to Amy Flowers, obviously didn't do any particular deep checks on who Amy Flowers was or the home that BBJ would be going to, and gave the cat away. Now, FFG did offer to take the cat. I have an IG message here that FFG ended up putting on Twitter. She offered to take the cat for $2,000. She offered to sign an NDA so that no one would ever hear about it, and then offered $3,000, I believe, the next day because we were getting closer and closer to the deadline of BBJ going to the vet. Now, here's the thing that Foodie seems to be missing, apart from the fact that the cat's not actually with FFG. For all FFG could have happily made any offer and Foodie wouldn't have taken it. So whether she offered $2,000 or $20,000, I don't think it would have made a difference. So she was sort of safe in making that offer because there's no way it would have been accepted. But FFG has her own haters online. And had she offered that money and offered not to say anything, Foodie could have released those DMs. Now, whether she would have been believed is always a question because she has zero credibility as a person. But FFG would have been raked over the coals by her own haters if she had agreed not to say anything and then it had come out. But now that Foodie didn't agree to that, FFG can say what she wants online. And it sucks for Foodie. It sucks for Foodie, and is it a particularly nice thing for FFG to do? No, but were you expecting some other behavior? Has history not proven what the relationship between the two of you is? Were you expecting her not to say anything after you didn't respond to the offer that would have gotten you money and her not to say anything? No, you chose not to go the NDA route. Whether it would have been helpful or not, whether she would have stuck to it or not, we will never know now. You had the option, you refused it, and now everything gets to be public. And FFG has covered herself because FFG didn't take the cat. Her sister did. Was FFG involved? Yes. Do I think FFG gets too involved in her life? Yes. Am I sorry? that BBJ isn't getting killed for the convenience of Foodie? No, I'm not. I'm not sorry that BBJ has now been rescued from that, because Foodie was really clear in what was going to happen to BBJ.
BBJ, you're not going in the suitcase, you're going in a cardboard box. Cardboard box? It's probably a bag, Zeta. I think pets get buried in bags. Deal with it. Flop era, I would rather put BBJ to sleep than give it to FFG.
The only reason she even changed her mind to try and rehome her was because of the massive backlash she was getting online. And had someone not been insistent on taking her, I think BBJ would have been euthanized. So despite how much interference and planning it took, which is something I probably wouldn't have done in that situation, I can't help but be happy that BBJ has a home instead of a bag in the hole in the ground. But am I confused as to why Foodie is angry that her nemesis has her cat and this is all about to play out online? No, I'm not confused about that. So let's talk a little bit about the vet visit that Foodie had planned. Foodie's been using that as receipts, as proof that she's a caring pet owner and that all of this is being done for views and to drum up false outrage and drama. That is where Foodie is going with this, because where the hell else is she going to go at this point? So she says, I proved I was going to take her on that day, on the day she was getting picked up to go to the vet to get her nail clipped. And my response to that is, so what? Like, that screams of hearing your mom pull up to the driveway and running upstairs because instead of cleaning your room, you've been watching cartoons and now you've got to run around and try and make it look tidy because you told her you were going to do it. That is a last-ditch effort to make sure she doesn't cut your allowance because you're not listening to her. We have cats in my family, but I've never independently owned one, so the responsibility of caring in terms of vet visits has always been with the adult in the house. But according to Google, at least, cats' nails need to be trimmed every 4 to 6 weeks, and as they get older they need doing more because they don't scratch as much, they don't wear them down naturally. And she makes the point that, well, I've had her for 20 years, and what, you've had her for 20 years and she's survived, I suppose? Doesn't mean you cared for her well, but she did survive, I'll give you that. But you've had her for 20 years, you didn't know that her nails should be cut every 6 weeks. So you didn't take them before Kuwait, because the last vet visit they had was about a year ago. So 4 to 6 weeks, she was in Kuwait for 3 months, so that's 2 missed visits. If she had gone right before Kuwait, it would have been 1 visit while she was gone and 1 visit as soon as she got back. And she could have gone as soon as she got back, and she didn't. Now, she claims that she was asking Pete to see her nails on camera and that they looked fine. But if they're meant to be trimmed every 4 to 6 weeks, how would they look fine? This isn't like, okay, I came back, I checked them thoroughly, they were absolutely fine after 3 months of not being clipped, so I waited for 3 more weeks and then I checked them and overnight they had grown into the pads of her feet. It's something that happens gradually, and had you cared to look, you would have seen, because it wasn't 1 nail, it was 5 nails. But you didn't care to look until somebody else might have a problem with it, which was in the last few days when you were due to have the visit anyway. And once again, the revisit was to see if you could euthanize her, which is probably why you didn't care about the nails, because it was never intended that BBJ would live this long. If you were in contact with Pete, which you claim you were, Pete could have taken her to a vet. Pete could have taken her to a groomer. Forget the vet, take her to a groomer and have her done. But he didn't, and you didn't insist, and you didn't offer the money to do that, even though they're your cats, and you left your pet with a man who has been proven not to care well for pets. Do you remember, everybody, the state of Timbit's food bowl when Pete was looking after him? Because I remember that. So is Frenchie going to drum up as much drama as possible from the vet visit that she's actually taken her on? Yes. Yes, of course she is. Were you expecting different? Does that change at all the fact that her nails were in a terrible condition and should have been sorted before? No. And I don't find the excuse that BBJ always screams. Well, according to the footage that you had before when you took her on the vet visit, where you tried to clip her nails and they were too long and she was screaming, yes, because her nails were too long. They were too long then, they were too long this time. So does BBJ always scream no matter what? Or every time you've touched her, has she screamed because she's been in pain because her nails have been overgrown? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? So excuse me for not finding your previously booked vet visit to be that convincing, considering it was there to find an excuse to euthanize her, and the only reason you were trying to insist on it before she got picked up is because you realized how bad this was going to look. Another point she makes a lot is that FFG is using my cat for content, which is what this was about.
Yeah, if she cared so much, she wouldn't have said a word exactly. She was willing to sign that NDA, remember? Nah, she wanted to use it for content. She wanted to use it for content.
We have the term cat deflection as a community. So stones and glass houses, my dear. But as we're on the topic, I would not prioritize content over the well-being of BBJ. And I say that as somebody who doesn't have pets herself independently, because I realize that they don't have a good practical place in my life. But the well-being of BBJ should be a priority. But if we can have both, the drama and the content of, hey, this is actually the state she was in, while BBJ doesn't suffer and gets out of the environment she was in, then I'm here for it, friends. So as Foodie likes to say, stay mad, babies. You should have taken the $3,000 and you should have checked more closely who you were giving her to. You didn't do that. You could have had the privacy of an NDA. You didn't do that. You get what you get. And as for the argument of you are using my sick cat,
It's like you all claim to be doing this to care about BBJ, but no, you don't. You know, it was never about BBJ. You're using my sick 20-year-old cat as bait, rage bait, for views and content. Ash, people euthanize their pets. Do you not see how mental it is for you to give me crap for I was gonna euthanize BBJ when FFG euthanized 2 pets?
your cat actually doesn't appear to be sick. Your cat had overgrown nails and now appears to be a lot more comfortable. But given that she has another vet appointment in a week's time, they can actually find out if she's sick or not, and they can take steps from there. And I'm sure that everyone will be watching because, as I say, FFG herself has her haters. You think there aren't people waiting in the wings for that? If Foodie had taken her to the vet, and if Foodie had somehow been blocked from euthanizing her at all, if the vet had said, no, I won't do it, and she couldn't be bothered to go to other vets to figure out who would, what do you think would have happened to BBJ? Foodie is rapidly running out of time. She's leaving Canada in what, a week? I think the original phrase was a month, and then she's out of the apartment on Monday, so she's only going to have a few days until she flies. Do you think she would have taken her to the vet to get her a full checkup before the next person? No. So BBJ has lost nothing by going to a new owner. She had a vet visit the same day that Foodie was going to take her, but now she's actually got somebody who doesn't want her to die. Speaking of all this, what's being used for content and what isn't, Foodie claims she didn't consent to being the center of all this. And I would absolutely see that the community as a whole has certainly outgrown any boundaries we would have thought it would have had.
Yeah, Black Cillian, I'm the only villain of this whole sick, weird community they call Gore World. I'm not part of it. I refuse to put myself in it. When I say I'm the queen of it, I mean that they've made me that way. But I didn't consent to that.
And as I said at the beginning of this, usually I do not agree with the idea of getting directly involved. So this open house business, this her walking around and people filming her business, I usually would be more against it. But at the same time, Foodie takes no steps to protect herself online. Foodie put her full address up, her full phone number up. If you're going to dox yourself, what are you expecting in this world? There is a certain personal responsibility for internet safety that she does not take. It doesn't mean that people should follow her around, but try not painting the target on your back. When she says she didn't consent to being the queen of this,
And then I'm like, literally, without me in this community, none of you would have any effing content. Nobody would care. Nobody cares about any of these people. Like, nobody cares about the lives of FFG, Yaba, like, to a certain point. Nobody cares. So you're really going to block the star of Gore World just because I'm defending myself against people? Are you serious? Are you serious?
She seems pretty happy with the attention it generally gets her. She just doesn't like it when there are actual consequences. In terms of Foodie crying online, she wasn't upset because BBJ was unhappy, right? She has no way of knowing. BBJ has certainly been more cared for in the last few days than she has been for a while. And I might be remembering this wrong, so excuse me, but didn't Foodie use the picture of BBJ? She's now saying, well, she looks really unhappy. Didn't she use that picture to prove how happy BBJ was in her new place? So that's quite the flip. So there's no way to know that BBJ is unhappy. But I think, my opinion, that Foodie does this thing that I do when I cry. It's very rare that I cry because I'm sad, or I cry because you've hurt my feelings, because I'm a lot more likely to bite back than I am to break down if you do something to me. But I do cry very, very easily when I'm frustrated or when I'm angry. And that in itself is really frustrating because people assume I'm just being emotional when actually I'm like, no, I just want to slap you in your face. And I realize that I'm not allowed to do that to people, right? It's when I can't get out why I'm so angry and it comes into tears. Foodie, I believe, is crying because FFG categorically won this one. And Foodie herself says it. And she knows, for all her threats, for all she went away and she decided to come back actually angry and keep the threats going, she knows there's very little she can actually do about it because, again, FFG doesn't have her cats. The sister-in-law that Foodie agreed to give her to has the cat. So they've done exactly what they said they were going to do. She's crying now because she knows that anything she wanted to hide, anything she thought she was safe from because Amy Flowers or the person she knew as her didn't have an online presence, it's now going to come out. And we know that because she said it.
And I just can't stop crying because everything is coming out now.
She can't justify why BBJ was in that condition. She can't justify why her house has been in that condition for so long. And that is the reason why she's leaning so hard into, well, FFG killed her dogs. You blame me for wanting to euthanize her, but then you'll give her to someone who actually euthanized a pet. And I think she's willfully misunderstanding this, but she's also not great at listening comprehension, so maybe this is just what she can live with in the redefined purpose she has in her head. She has a way of filtering information, and we've discussed that many a time. FFG euthanized a dog that was actually suffering. From what I can tell, I don't watch her regularly, but I remember at the time there was a big charity stream and she raised quite a lot of money and donated it to a charity. I remember her being pretty devastated online and it seeming sincere. That's what I remember from it. I might be missing details there, but as I recall, FFG really loved her dog, and after her dog did have to be euthanized because she was suffering, FFG raised some money for a dog charity, as I remember it. Actually euthanizing a suffering pet is a very different situation than trying to euthanize an otherwise healthy cat who might be showing signs of suffering because of something you are actively responsible for. And that is why FFG is not getting as much hate as Foodie is getting. And she will not engage with that as an idea because to her it's all the same, and it's simply not. I don't have a problem with the idea of euthanasia if that is the only viable solution. I do have a problem with you taking a cat that doesn't have a reason to be euthanized and doing it anyway. Especially as the only reason is, well, I want to move and it's inconvenient. Another thing Foodie is leaning into is the idea that because she had this vet appointment, she's saying, no, I admitted that, because she's always believed, and you can see this numerous times in what's left of her channel, that acknowledgement is the same as being absolved of that responsibility, and it's simply not. She acknowledged it, and therefore you cannot hold it against her. I believe she had that vet appointment. I believe everything she said in terms of, oh, well, I was going to take her at 2:30. Of course she was. Mum's in the driveway, run. So then you have moments like this.
If you want to hate me, if you want to think I'm a bad pet owner, even though I've had her for 20 years, and all my videos show how much I've loved her. Could I have been a better pet owner? Yeah. Yeah, I could have.
But in this case, admitting it is actually making it worse because it just shows knowledge of suffering. And we all saw the state of her house. We've seen the evidence of the dirty food with Timbit, and we have no reason to assume that the other cats were in better condition, especially considering the state at which Pete's and Foodie actually live in themselves. And the cats are smaller, they're in closer contact with all that mess and all that dirt and all the box layers and the dirty litter, because we've heard them online admitting to like the pretty litter she had that she changed once a month. And yes, the company says once a month, but there were a lot of people coming in and saying, yeah, they say that, but it gets saturated quicker than that and you have to judge it. And they just weren't. So I believe that emotionally, Foodie loved her cats because she's fairly simple in that regard. I loved them, I petted them, I gave them treats. Okay, yes, in her head, in as much as she understands depth of love and the responsibility it gives her. She's never been a proponent of tough love. She's never been an understander that sometimes you do things people don't like because it's for your own good. And that's a problem she had in her own childhood, where she didn't want to listen to her mum. She wanted to do what she wanted. And we've seen the ways that it just carries on into her adult life. She never really lost that mentality. So the balls on her to say, you have blood on your hands.
Look how she cackles. Do you want BBJ to live in that negativity and the constant smoking? Do you really want her living with FFG? You guys are insane and you have blood on your hands.
To her audience, when she is the one making this decision, you can emotionally love your pets in as much as she's able to emotionally connect with anything and still be responsible for physical neglect, which is what I believe she was. But blaming your audience for your decisions has never really worked out well for you. And this was another example of where she's forgetting that FFG is not housing BBJ. She's not going to be in that situation. This reminded me a little bit of, do you remember when a troll sent her an email and then signed it Charlie Gold? And so she was having that rage where on one hand she was like, I realize it's not her, but oh my God, what if it was her? I'm so angry at her. I want her information. I want to find her parents. It was that. It was her kind of knowing, but also forgetting in her anger. And frankly, Foodie doesn't know anything about the living situation of her cat now because she didn't bother to do the checks before she handed the cat over. So there we are. She took the word of a stranger online because it was more convenient to her than dealing with the backlash of other people, and it has backfired. Stay mad. So let's move on to the consequences of this, because she's mad now. She's gone past upset, she's gone past the shock of knowing everything's going to come out, and now she's angry. So getting a lawyer, she's going to get one. She's spoken to one, had a conversation, but she also said she's looking for a lawyer to represent her. So there we go. I'm not sure what the status is right now, but she seems to flip-flop back and forth because as we know, the truth is prone to changing. Same with the police. So she has a mixed story here of the cops say I have a case, but for some reason she hasn't pursued that case, even though she's pursuing a lawyer.
And the cop was even like, that's like fraud. That's like fraudulent. I would definitely have a case in court. So it's just overwhelming for me to think about a court case right now because honestly, I have a lot to do. I mean, I have to move. No, I definitely, like I called the cops and they said I definitely have, like they were really like, they were like sympathetic that they couldn't really help me because it's not like, you know, the same kind, like I have to file a police report and everything, so.
What she thinks she's going to do with a lawyer if she hasn't filed a case with the police proving that she tried to take action and it was ignored, I'm not entirely sure, but that seems like it would be important. She called the cops. She went to the trouble of calling the cops. Apparently, the cops, because I'm sure this is something they do a lot, was like, yeah, you've got a case, we're waiting. And then she just didn't file the report, but she's willing to go through with the work of building a legal case with a lawyer. You'll excuse me if I have my doubts. But the police apparently said, you know, they have a case and they couldn't do anything until she filed a police report, which makes sense because if you're not asking for her to be charged with something, why would they waste police resources pursuing it? The police are not a complaint line. You don't just call them to vent. It's like, hey, what do you want us to do about it? Okay, you don't want a case? Why are you on the phone? But I don't know how she would pursue getting the cat back because the person she agreed to give it to has it. So in terms of, oh, she got it under false pretenses. No, she said she wanted the cat, you gave her the cat. The last thing I'm just going to talk about real quickly is there was a woman, Tanya, in Foodie's chat who was claiming to be a lawyer who said she could get an NDA. Now, this might just be my ignorance. I know NDAs can be signed in business terms and that they're more enforceable that way, but I thought NDAs were voluntary. I thought that was the point. It's a non-disclosure agreement. You agree not to do something. And so Foodie gave her the option of an NDA when she wanted the cat. That was the exchange, the cat for money and my silence. Now she's got the cat anyway. She doesn't have to live by that. But if they're voluntary, which is my perhaps flawed understanding, why on earth would FFG agree to an NDA now? Foodie would need a court order to prevent FFG from discussing her, which would be a civil case for harassment, which is going to be really difficult considering Foodie is a public figure. She can fight that battle. She has the right to fight that battle. But I don't think an NDA is going to help her here because FFG would have to agree to it. And what possible motivation has she got for that? So anyway, that's as much as I have for you today. I know there's probably more, I know, and I know there will continue to be more, but I think ultimately, even if this took measures that I maybe personally wouldn't have got as involved in, I am pleased to see that BBJ has been given a chance to live in comfort and being cared for, which appears to be the case at the moment. I think that was a best case scenario for her. So other than that, we are going to have to see what Foodie chooses to do. Foodie is off to Kuwait again soon, so I very much doubt she's going to pursue anything. I know that Salah was in chat saying, your lawyer can follow this up. Yeah, I mean, if she can be bothered, but how's she going to pay for a prolonged case? And she's got a ton of other things that she's trying to sort out right now. I'm presuming the money she's earning is going towards trying to legalize her temporary marriage in Kuwait so that she can stay there because she's going on a tourist visa again. And I still want to know how long she can stay on that tourist visa. I know people come back and forth a lot until they're caught, but during the application for the e-visa that I looked up in my previous video, it asked, have you done it before? So there must be a limit of some kind because otherwise nobody would ever go through the trouble of getting any other type of visa. The tourist visa is by far the easiest. So, you know, immigration is designed to prevent this kind of abuse. So we will see how long that lasts and I will be watching it carefully. All right, guys, other than that, thank you so much for being here and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.